Hey guys, it's Ryan, and you're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast. I want to thank you guys for supporting the show. If you would, make sure and hit subscribe on whatever podcast platform you are currently listening to. The show is also available over on YouTube, so if you're not following us over there, please head on over and hit subscribe. Again, you're listening to the Hunt Stealth Podcast, the fastest growing hunting podcast in the nation. This episode is brought to you by Muley Maniacs. These guys make the best tripods on the market, and they stand by their product with a lifetime warranty. Head on over to muleymaniacs.com and enter promo code STEALTH for 20% off your next order. We've got Phil Lundell on the podcast with us today. Excited to have him on the show. Definitely go give him a follow on the IG. It's Phil_Lundell. Double L's at the end there for those that may be wondering. But Phil is an environmental scientist for the state of, what was
Utah.
it? Utah. Oh, that's right, Utah. Duh. I was telling him before we started recording, I'm a little scatterbrained, had a couple work things I was dealing with that I hadn't anticipated. But Phil's grown up. He's hunted his entire life, and just like a regular guy that loves to get after it and hunt. And excited to talk to him and learn a little bit more about that. Phil, thanks for joining me, brother. Appreciate it.
Oh, for sure, Ryan. I'm excited to be here. This is my first podcast, so we'll see where it goes.
Sweet. It's going to be great. So tell me, what's your earliest memory hunting, as a kid?
At 8 years old, we would get to go down to Fish Lake every year on the second weekend of the rifle hunt to go hunting with our dad and my uncles. And it was the greatest thing. I remember I have an older brother, a year older than me, so he got to go that first year before me, and I don't remember if they harvested anything, but I always was super excited that the next year was going to be my turn to go. So I got to go. My dad killed a little 4-point, probably because I was there, and I actually have it in the room over here. So that's probably my first memory. But I also have a picture from when I was just a baby, and my dad had killed another. It's a little 4-point with some kickers, and that one's in my room too. And it's me reaching out, freaking out, crying, next to my dad hanging up with a deer with its throat slit. So I've actually made it a point that every year when I harvest a deer, no matter what, as soon as I get home, I grab my daughter, and then now my son, and each of them get a picture with the deer, no matter what. So I actually have some funny pictures of my daughter being little, screaming to try to get away from a deer. So it's kind of fun.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Yeah.
So tell me, what led you into a career as an environmental scientist?
Dude,
you don't meet those every day.
I don't know, dude. I actually went to college up at Utah State and started going there and flunked out. And then went back into the workforce, did road construction for a while, and was like, this is good money, but I also like to live other than work 90 hours a week. So I went back to school, and it just so happened I started going through school, had to take a bunch of classes, and ended up actually with a biological anthropology degree. So humans, archaeology, stuff like that.
So some Indiana Jones type stuff.
Dude, yeah. So I actually, so that was my degree. And from there, I needed to go to do a master's program. But my wife needed to do nursing school. So we moved down to West Jordan. I took the first job that I could get. That happened to be with West Jordan City, installing sewer pipe for $14 an hour as a college graduate. So I actually
living the dream.
Yeah. So I had, from there, I worked there for about a year, switched over to a reclamation facility, Central Valley water reclamation, so a sewer plant. And because of I had a degree in a science, they gave me the job, and I was doing permitting and inspections at facilities that discharged their wastewater um, to them to essentially make sure that they didn't put anything down the drain that would kill the sewer plant. Was there for a year, and luckily a job opened up at Payson City, doing the exact same thing. And so I took that job. My wife at that point was still in nursing school. We moved in the middle, and she was going to nursing school in Salt Lake. I was coming down here to work. From there, worked there for 4 years, and ultimately, my goal after I had started going through everything was to get on with the state doing something in the science field because that's what I liked. So I just would apply for jobs with the state, random jobs, and somehow I'd get offered a job, and then I'd be like, that doesn't even sound fun to me. So I'd turn it down, and then I'd apply for another job. They'd turn it down. My job opened up. I applied for it. They called my references, and they didn't offer me the job, and I was super bummed. And about like I didn't get anything other than that, like just an email. Thanks for interviewing. We've decided to go with somebody else. Um, about 3 months later, the job opened again, and I'm kind of hard headed, so I applied for it again. I applied for it, and my boss like called me and was like, "Hey, Phil, I am so sorry with everything. Um, let me fill you in on what happened." And he's like, "I was gonna offer the job. I went to management to offer you the job, and there was not enough money to give you that I felt would be fair. So I gave it to somebody else. I offered the job to somebody else because I knew you'd turn it down. So this time I'll make it up, and yeah, luckily they could meet me where I needed to be and offer me the job, and I took that. So
Backed the dump truck up with cash and called you back, huh?
yeah. So it was nice. So I have a dream job now. I deal with gas stations and tanks, petroleum tanks, and so yeah, it's the best job in the world. I think I get to go out in the field. I get to do office work. I kind of make my own schedule, so it's nice.
And how has that job worked with your desire to get out and hunt? I mean, because you definitely find a way to make the time to be able to go out and scratch that itch.
Yeah. So I I am super lucky to be able to live close to the unit that I hunt for general season deer. So my wife being a nurse, she works 3 days a week, and it's like from 9 to 9 most days. So on the days during the week that she's working, I got to pick up the kids from daycare. I got to do their nightly routines. I got to put them to bed. But on the days that we're not, that she's home, um, as soon as I'm off work at 4:30, my dad picks me up and we head up the mountain. So 2 days a week we do that. It's usually Mondays, Thursdays, or Fridays. We are up and we are hunting from as soon as we get up until it gets dark. We come down. But then weekends, I have a good buddy that is my hunting buddy, and we hike into a different spot and we hunt there on weekends. I've kind of it's I figured it out how I can still be a good hunter hunting two different spots by being able to use my time wisely. So we get up there. So me and my dad, we get up. We we have certain spots that we take our side by side up. We pull off the road glass, and we don't have much time. We have 3 hours maybe. So especially with a bow, that's not much time to be able to make a game plan and get something put down. So we're glassing, we're hopping to the next place, glassing, and we have our hit list of bucks that we know are there, that we are trying to find them and have them be in an area that we can make a play on them. So yeah, that's kind of how it works for me. I'm
That's
lucky
awesome.
lucky to be able to hunt close to home to where I can get out. as often as I can.
I mean, when it's hunting season, do you feel like you're getting out like almost every weekend?
Yes, for the most part. The only on the archery season, first weekend I'm out. During the weekdays I'm out. The second weekend of the hunt though is my most of the time, at least that week, is my daughter's and my wife's birthday. So August 24th and the 25th are their birthdays. So I've kind of made it a thing where the second weekend of the archery hunt I don't hunt, which is kind of hard, but other than that week, I get my wife is an angel, and I get free reign to hunt anytime that I want during hunting seasons. That's if I have a tag, if my brothers have a tag, if my dad has a tag, if anybody's have tags, it's a no questions asked. You get to go. So it kind of nice.
Did she grow up with a family that hunts?
So her father hunts, but from what she said, is he while he when he had the kids and they were young, he didn't hunt.
Okay.
But he's now picked up when she has uh, a little brother, and when he got to the age to be able to hunt, he started going out with him hunting again. So now he hunts every year. But yeah, that's so I think
So she
that's
wasn't
been,
raised in a family being used to that. So you got lucky then that she's like chill and
yeah.
saying like, go do your thing. That's awesome. That's way cool.
Yeah. And how I make up for it though is vacations during the off season. So January we go to Hawaii every year. In early spring we do a cruise every year, and then right before the archery hunt starts we do Disneyland or Disney World. So I kind of have to prioritize the family stuff in the other times of the year, so then on hunting season I can do that. And that's kind of with everything is during even weekends now. I make one day with the family that we do something. If it's going swimming, if it's going to Thanksgiving Point, if it's whatever they want to do, we do. And then the other day is I'm either shooting bows, shooting rifles, or scouting for the hunts.
So it's just putting in quality family time when you're there, which
Yes,
which
that
is nice because I mean there's a lot of people that are home with their kids, but they're like zoned out, like they're on their phone watching TV, whatever, not doing stuff with them. So well, you've got like a good balance and a nice trade set up there. So nice job, man.
yeah, for sure, for sure. Sometimes I get sucked into my phone. I can do that, but I try to be as present as possible with my kids. They're both young. I have a 1.5 year old and a 3.5 year old. So
Yeah.
it's
Well, if you're going out doing things, like you're not typically just like locked in on the phone. You know,
yeah,
you're at,
yeah,
and with those ages, you got to be paying attention anyway, or you get in trouble.
for real.
But yeah. So Phil, hey, tell me, shifting gears like to hunting, what's been like your favorite species that you've hunted that was maybe like the most difficult that you've been able to have success with?
I think archery deer is by far my favorite thing to do. It is also the hardest thing I've done, but the last little bit, it's finally started to click, and I've learned a lot of different things that have really helped me be more successful. When I was younger, I can't tell you how many deer I missed with a bow or unfortunately wounded because I wasn't prepared mentally, and it really showed on that end of hunting. Like I don't know, like I growing up, I didn't put in the time. I'd pull out my bow the week before the hunt. I'd shoot. I'd do that, and it just led to me not filling tags or wounding animals, which unfortunately with a bow it happens. Now I am more than confident that I can kill any deer on the mountain any given day, as long as every everything lines up, as in I have enough daylight, the wind's going my way, and there's not somebody there that can ruin it for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that's good advice. I mean, it's easy to like if you've kind of just grown up doing it, like for me, where it was new, like I shot my bow like a lot, and I got really comfortable with the bow, and I know where my range is, and just taking those time and putting those reps makes it easier. So when you're out there, I think for like people that are new to hunting, to be able to get the job done, right? Like to have the
100%.
confidence and like I know what my distance is where I'm comfortable, and here's the shots that I feel comfortable taking.
Yep. Yep. That's 100% it.
And yeah, so I mean, it's good to I think recognize that. But what aside from shooting the bow, like going from, it sounds like maybe you had done a lot more rifle hunting, but in the archery, like getting in on mule deer is not super simple. I mean, as you can see, the ones you have behind you, they have massive ears that are just like basically like sonar. They're just like listening. Like, what do you felt help you become more successful to be able to get close to these animals, to be able to get within bow range?
I think that the best thing is learning when you need to be patient and when you need to make a move.
Hmm.
If you want to hear the story of the velvet buck this last year, I can tell you that and kind of
Let's
how.
hear it.
Okay,
Yeah, let's hear
so
it.
it was one of those days. It was August 29th. So deer are starting to get ready to strip their velvet. This was a deer that we've been watching all summer. He hung out with a inline five, and then there was another buck that every once in a while would cross paths with him. That was a really wide 3x4, and it was just another day after work. My dad picks me up. We're headed up on the mountain to go hit our normal spots to glass to determine what to do. We were actually going after a cactus buck that day that I had passed up a couple days before because I was like, it's a cactus buck. It's not giant. I don't I don't want to shoot it. But then after we had got back, I was like, how many times am I going to have an opportunity on a cactus buck? So we were actually going after this other deer, and we got up there to our spots, couldn't locate anything, and kind of on our way back, stopped and glassed, and immediately I saw the inline five, and he had stripped his velvet, and uh, I'm assuming most people know, but when they go hard horns, their patterns are going to completely change. They're going to break off from each other. They're not going to be hanging out together. So with him being stripped, I knew that it was now or never to be able to kill that deer. So my dad posted up at we were like 1,100 yards away, and we were just glassing. I noticed this buck came out and was with him, and then the 3x4 was there. And so I'm happy with any three of these deer. It's my second year dedicated. I haven't killed yet because the first year I'm super picky. So I knew all of these deer, I'd be happy with any of them. So I looked at the time. We had about an hour and a half before it would get dark. They were in a big patch of scrub oak that year, last year. And in that scrub oak, there were tons of acorns. So that's what they had been eating all year.
Just feasting.
Yeah, they've been feasting, and in this area for some reason they normally there's one or two good bucks in there, and this last year there was 8 or 9 good bucks. So I packed my stuff up. I had my binos, I had my bow, and I told my dad I'm going after him. So I took off hiking. As I was hiking down in, I've been there a million times. I've hunted it. I put stalks there, but what I've noticed is as I'm going in, I use Onyx, I use Go Hunt, but I'm taking pictures the entire time as I'm going down and going up. I stop about every 30 yards, take a picture so I can reference where I'm going as I'm walking up. And that's kind of something weird that I do, but for me, it works. So I get down to the bottom. My dad texted me and said, "Hey, I lost them. They fed over a ridge to where I can't see them." I said, "Sounds good. I'm gonna go where I saw them last." So I got up there as quick as I can. The suns went down behind this ridge, but we still had a good 45 minutes of light. I get up there to where I had saw them last, and I pull out my binos, and I'm looking, and the 3x4 is at 100 yards, just unreal. Like I knew he was wide, but when I got up close with him, it was just unreal. So I got back down, and I'm just sitting there. I have my arrow knocked because I don't know where the other two bucks are, and I'm glassing, and all of a sudden the inline five goes over the next ridge, and the 3x4 follows him, and the big four is what we called him, is he feeds over behind it. So I just was like, okay, it's now or never. I got to get up on him. So I beelined it up the ridge that I was on, down the goalie, came back the ridge that they had just crested over, and it was a big tight hill that came around. So as long as they didn't know I was there, they were just going to keep feeding, I assume. So I'm looking, and I'm just trying to find them and glassing, and I'm like, hey, where did they go? And I'm like, are they on the other hill yet? Where did they go? And I'm just completely glassing, and I all of a sudden caught with my binos his antlers just sticking up behind the oak brush. So I like full panic. I'm like, okay, I get down. He's looking kind of towards me. I don't know if he knows where I'm at. So I pull out my rangefinder.
How far were you from him at this point?
So that's where I'm getting. So
okay.
I pull out the rangefinder, and I can't get the range on him because of the oak brush that's in front of him. So oak brush, I hit 40 yards. I shoot tack every year. I try and practice as much as I can on angles, up, down, doing all that, and know my arrow trajectory. So at that point, I'm like, okay, oak brush has got to be 10 yards wide, like long. So I guess the deer at 50 yards. So I shoot a dual pin sight. But I always go with the top pin. I never shoot the bottom pin. That's just kind of an emergency. If I first shot misses and they run off, then I have a little bit longer. So I dial it to 50. I draw back as nor in my past. I used to get a lot of buck fever, and I'd shake. My mind wasn't there. This I draw back. I anchor. I settle the pin where his body should be, because all I can see is his antlers and him looking at just the tips of his ears looking at me. I know that my arrow is going to drop in there. I set it where his vitals are going to be, and I release an arrow. It drops in there. I hear the hit. I know he's hit good. So I'm like, okay. I just the inline 5 and the 3x4 happened to just be just a couple yards behind him. They hadn't walked out to the view where I could see their antlers. They take off, run over the next ridge, take off, going. He just hobbles, going slow, and it takes him about, I don't know, 10 minutes to get to the other side to where I could see him again. At that point, I see blood, but then he turns a little and I can see guts, which obviously isn't the best, but the angle that I hit him at, I still felt good because of how much it was taking him forever to get. So he ends up walking about halfway up that ridge, which is only 50 maybe yards up the goalie. So he goes up about halfway. I'm looking through my binos, and he beds. I'm like, okay, dead deer. I'm ecstatic. I call I texted my dad. I'm like, hey, he's dead. Like, he's dead. At that point, I had about 30 minutes of light left ish, I would guess, maybe 20. And so I'm sitting there, I'm watching him. I call my little brother. He's in Arizona. He's one of my, we've hunted together our whole lives. I know him. So I call him and I'm like, dude, I shot the big 4. He's like, no, you didn't. You're full of it. I'm like, dude, serious. So I pull up my binos and show him there. And he's like, oh my gosh, you got him. So I'm like, okay, I'm pumped. So then I'm like still being quiet. And I I called one of my uncles that I always took me hunting growing up, and I'm like, dude, I just smoked him. Like, it's a little far back, but he's gonna be. And I'm looking through my binos, watching him, and at that point I watch him kind of like he was up, his head's up, and then he just flops, and I was like, oh, he's dead.
He's down.
My uncle's like, are you sure? I was like, yes, I just watched him flop. He's dead. He's like, if you don't know for sure, back out and we'll come in the morning. Like, do not push it, because about 300 yards to the south is private property, a big ranch, private property. So I'm like, no, like, he's dead for sure. So I text my other brother, I'm like, dude, he's dead. My dad is pumped. I'm like, he's dead. We're good. So I start walking over to him. So I'm walking over. I know where he's at. I can see him in the thick oak brush, and I get about 20 yards from him. And all of a sudden he jumps up and takes off. And at that point, you just have the full, like, so he runs up, he stops at the top of the ridge, he looks at me, and then takes off again. And I'm like, at that point, I'm gutted. Like, what did I just do in this thick oak brush? I knew where he was. I swore I'd watch him die. And I get up there and he's not dead. So I go up to where he had bedded, and I look at the blood. And it is dark red blood. So with how I hit him, I figured I hit his liver, went out guts. Just that's all I could figure is liver, guts. It's a dead deer 100%. I gotta wait until the morning. So I marked an arrow where I saw him last, and the last blood. So, well, I guess I marked the last blood, and then where I last saw him, I walked up to, and I just looked and glassed really quick to see if I could see anything. Couldn't see anything. So I hurried and got back off just in case something, and we got out of there. So I hiked down to my dad. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just ruined this. This is going to be the worst thing in the world, finding this deer. Like, I don't know what to do. So I'm text my uncle, text my brother, my buddy Oliver, my hunting buddy. He's like, oh, dude, like, I was like, hey, I'm gonna be up in the morning. I'm gonna do what I can. Oliver had work in the morning, so he could come. He's like, I can take off after afternoon, and I'll be up there. My uncle dropped everything that he could. Another one of my buddies, Sean, he dropped everything and was like, dude, I'll be there in the morning with you. So it was a sucky night, to say the least. Like, to get home after you've been pumped on this deer, and to think like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna find him in this thick oak brush, or he's ran off. And so next morning, woke up super early. Sean showed up at my house. We went. My dad showed up, got us, went, picked up my uncle, and we headed up there. So we get up to the top of how it works. There's kind of a trail up top and a trail down bottom. And so we got dropped off up top. My dad went back to the glassing point just in case something, to glass anything. And,
right.
And so we hike down there, we find the blood. My buddy's like, hey, look, he's like, I agree. It's liver blood. My uncle looks at it. Yeah, it's liver blood. So we start going. We go to where we last saw him at, and we're just finding little specks of blood because he was running. And we're like, okay. So we're just literally on our hands and knees going, looking for blood. There's tracks there, but there's tons of deer in there. So who knows what tracks are what. And we're just trying to piece together the puzzle of where this deer went. So we start 10 yards, we get another piece of blood. 20 yards, we get another piece of blood.
How long have you been looking for him at this point?
About 20 minutes. Because it's just a slow creep. Into it. Yeah, it's just a slow creep because we didn't know because of how thick the oak brush was and everything. Like, it was just hard.
Could be anywhere.
And being one side, guts were hanging out, no blood was coming out that side. So only my entrance side had blood coming out. So that's another thing you gotta. And so we're just going, and my uncle had walked down a little bit, about 40 yards away from where the top where I'd saw him last, and he's like, "Hey Phil, I got blood right here," and it was on some oak brush leaves. So I swoop down and I just kind of circle right there, and I'm walking back up to him. I'm like, "God, it smells like deer here. Like I don't know, like it smells like deer." And I walk up to it, and I'm looking at it. I'm like, "Sean, right here, we got blood." So he starts walking down, and my uncle's just he had backed up like 5 feet from me, just down where I had just walked past, saying I smelt something. And my uncle's like, "Hey Phil, turn around and look down." I turned around and looked down, and there he was. So the crazy thing was, is he would have how he had is essentially when I bumped him, it was his last hurrah, essentially, and he gave it everything, and he essentially Superman, it looked like, off of this and died. So from where I had saw him, it was 40 yards. He was more than likely dead at that spot when I went up and was glassing down looking. So yeah, it was all, hugs around, like nothing better than being able to find one after a gut wrenching night before after bumping
Thinking
it.
that he's gone.
Yeah, especially in that I had hit up one of my buddies that can hunt that big private property, and was like, "Hey dude," because he knew about the buck, and I was like, "Hey dude, like if you hear anything, like I'm gonna go after him in the morning. If and luckily he called me and was like, "Hey, if he does go in there, I've talked to the managers and you're good to go in. Just let us know before you go."
That's nice.
And so
yeah.
so it was
a little relief.
yeah, and he was like, "My dad's gonna be up there this afternoon, so he'll let everybody know." So it really really made out to be this awesome experience, but also learning another little piece of learning that I wouldn't have got beforehand, which is maybe if even though I thought I watched him die, maybe I already know where he's at and that he's not going anywhere. Back out and come back in the morning. That's the only thing that I wish that I would have done different. Anyways, is just backed out instead of pushing him that little bit. So.
And it's hard when you had first shot him, and then you see that he's wounded. How long did you wait before you started moving up on him?
20 minutes, probably. 20.
So I mean,
20-ish,
it wasn't like it wasn't immediately.
No, because I let him do his thing. I let him walk up slowly and then bed, and then he's there for five-ish minutes and tips over. I don't know anybody else that would have not went up there, but now in the future, I am gonna definitely sit back, and even if I would have waited until pitch black and went there an hour later, I think he would have been dead there. So
yeah, I mean, I haven't experienced that, but just in talking with people, I mean, you see guys that will shoot an animal, and I mean, they'll even document it, right? Like I think of Cam Haynes and his bear hunt that he did in Alaska, right? Where he's like, he's dead. I mean, and the guy's like the man.
yeah,
Like, it just happens. And I mean, there are times where you could wait an hour and they still might not expire. So, yeah, it's part of the learning experience.
yeah.
But yeah, like the highs and lows, like I said, like you get them, you're so excited, like you're calling your uncle, your brother, like everyone. And then you're like, I'm gonna go get up on him. I want to go. Now I want to see what I've done, because it was evening, right, when you had
Yep.
shot him.
Yep, it was evening, getting dark. Like so everything was. Oh, I want to get on him before it gets dark.
Yeah, so like your mind, the the clock starts ticking. But yeah, it's and then when there's not a ton of blood, like that's the other thing that it turns into, you know, an experience. I was talking with Caleb Brewer. I had him on the podcast not too long ago. He owns the Stick Sniper Archery down in Arizona, and he and I are working on putting together like a training up here.
Yeah.
So he's taking like what he's learned as like a Green Beret, and he's created a course because he's like, he goes, most new hunters, it's like you talk about, right? Like the simple thing, it's like, hey, learn to shoot your bow. And it's like, well, people will shoot them all the time and they don't know how to track and find the animal
Yeah.
if it blows out. And it's something I'm excited to be working with him on and be able to bring his expertise up here as a Green Beret to Utah and put on like a training, because I 100% need it. But he's like, it's like a full day training thing. I mean, you're getting like into the nitty gritty, like of his expertise of the tracking stuff that he's learned as a Green Beret,
Yeah.
and how that can apply to tracking a wounded animal.
Oh,
So that one, I mean, it's for and like you, nobody wants an animal to suffer, right? So
no.
if they're not down, you want to get on them to be able to like finish them off.
Yep.
And so yeah, it's that fine line between like, you waited 20 minutes, I saw him go down, like, and it looked like it was like a death drop, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And so then you get up there, and then he blows out, and then the wheels start turning. I should have done this. I shouldn't have done that. I should have just the shoulda, woulda, couldas are always there. Like in hindsight, it's like I talk about on this podcast all the time. The things that I learned from people and just talking about this all the time, I look back at where I failed, but knowing what I know now, it's like, well, it's going to lead to success.
Yeah.
Because you take the things that you learn incorrectly and you apply them to the tactics that you're using. That's going to make you a better, hunter in the future. But it's nice that this story at least ended with being able to locate it. So did he go off a cliff then?
No, it was a
Superman.
It was a really steep face with the oak brush. So he legit jumped though down, because there was no blood between. It was a big patch, so there was no blood between where my uncle saw the last piece and where he was dead. So it was just crazy. It was crazy. But yeah, I 100% learned a lot of things. I think being comfortable with your gear is the number one thing that you got to do. And that bow that I had last year, I was comfortable with. The other tool
Is that
in my
this one?
Yep. So lift 33. Yep. So I switch bows every year.
Is this that buck? That is the buck, right?
Yep. That's that buck behind me. Yep.
And was this close to where you found him then?
So we pulled him down out of the oak brush.
Okay.
About 20 yards down.
Yeah, I was gonna say that looks still like thick up there where you were at.
Yeah, it's super thick. So like the one piece of gear that I changed last year that I think made the difference for me is I've been a Schwaro snob for years. I've ran ELs, and last year I bought a pair of Sig Zulu 6s, 12x42s, and honestly, that's how I glassed it, because you're huffing and puffing with your bow. You're getting up and you're having a glass. You flip that image stabilizing on, and everything locks in, so you can huff and puff as you're trying to catch your breath and still be able to glass. That's why I caught the tips of his antlers. If I would have had my ELs out, I don't think I would have killed that deer. And that's the crazy thing, is I actually did not touch my ELs last year after I bought those Zulus, and I sold them this spring because I don't see the glass is amazing, obviously, in the Zulu or in the Schwaros, but the benefits of being able to hunt with stabilized binoculars, for me, outweigh the benefits of the glass.
I've heard those are like a game changer. I've talked to a couple guys like on the podcast, and they're like, look, they're expensive. I don't even know what they are. I mean, I've looked at them, but
they're like $1,000. But like my Schwaros are $2,000, and to be able to now have those 12s. My dad has given up his Schwaros for them. I have two buddies that after using mine have sold their binos and now have bought them. Like for me, and at least the people I hunt with, they're they're a game changer. Yeah, I still have my Schwaro spotter that I'm using, but
Sure.
the to be
What
able
were
to
your those the 16 by 50s?
I use 12s. I use 12 by 42s is what I use.
Okay.
Yep. So the little smaller ones. My dad used the 16s, um, and my buddies use the 12s too. And to be able to still have my bow and arrow knocked and be able to glass a little hillside or to try to find where the deer is at exactly, that is what I feel like was the game changer. Because with the Schwaros, I don't think that I would have been able to kill him. I think I would have missed him because I wouldn't have been able to see him.
Huh. That's that's I've talked with a couple of guys about that, and they're like that's one thing that they've switched to, that and I've heard that they don't have to even use the tripods as much
Yep. Yeah.
as what they had been. So it's definitely I've heard some good things, but yeah. So you're giving credit to those,
That
to you being
and
able to like
putting in
find
the
like I
work.
mean,
Yeah.
well, right,
Yeah.
right. Like I mean, you put in the work, and you do the scouting. You knew the three bucks that you were wanting to go after, and you put in the effort to go get them. But having the right equipment, like those image stabilizing binoculars, it gave you because you were doing the work. You're like you caught the antlers, right?
Yep. Yep.
And that's ultimately what led to the success. So like you can do it with just regular binos. I mean,
Yeah.
it's been done a
I've done it
long
before.
time. Yeah.
Yeah. I've done it tons of times, but just that, me trying to get 1% better or 2% better at being able to harvest an animal, I feel like that pushes me over the top. And maybe that's in
Yeah.
my mind, but that's what pushes me over the top and gets me to where I got to be.
Yeah.
So
No, for
yeah.
sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. No, I appreciate you sharing that.
Yeah.
For other folks that are maybe getting started in hunting, and we've talked. I mean, we talked a little bit about those binoculars. Like, what do you think is, in just your opinion, is like overrated equipment when it comes to hunting that people maybe feel they have to have, but maybe you don't think is as necessary?
There's lots of things. I think it all depends on you being true to yourself and knowing what kind of hunting you want to do and what you are capable of doing. I
Mm,
see a lot of people that are going out and getting in the weeds and worrying about things that they don't need to be worrying about when they're just starting hunting and going and purchasing a big expensive backpack, uh, uh, a teepee, this, that, and I know people way too many that I can count that have never even spent a day in one of those, but they've went out and spent all this money on stuff that they don't need. I I'm not a backcountry hunter. I'm not a backcountry hunter. I've done some in the past before, but primarily I'm a wake up as earlier as I need to in the morning and get out there. On my weekend hunts with my buddy, we backpack in. It's a mile and a half and 2,000 vertical feet. We have emergency blankets and emergency sleeping bags if we got to stay there that night. But other than that, I don't do backcountry. So that's kind of is you got to
just
be true
depends
with
on what it is you
yourself.
want to do. Yeah.
Yeah, is that's I wouldn't say like it's a specific piece of gear that the people don't need, but it's more of a you got to be true to yourself with what kind of hunter you want to be, because there are those guys that are deep backcountry guys that need all that stuff that are killers. But then there's also the guys like me that I don't need all that stuff. I have a nice backpack. I have nice boots. I have a nice bow. I have nice binos, and I know what I can do with them.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of more, I guess, what it is. I also see a lot of new archers. I've been archery hunting now for 18 years. 18 years. I've killed I've shot a lot, but also like I see a lot of new archers that are getting too deep in the weeds in things that they, in my mind, they don't need to. FOC, you know, heavy area arrows versus lightweight arrows, um, mechanical or fixed. When really, if you spend that time that you're worrying about that, going out and shooting your bow and making sure that you're efficient at it, and knowing where to hit on an animal, none of that stuff matters. If you hit an animal in the right spot, it's going to die. That's what it is. And
Yeah.
that's kind of what I've seen in the last, I don't know, 5 to 10 years, is a lot of people, newer archers, getting into this and getting in the weeds, when I think that you need to be more in the weeds later on. Me personally, I can't tell the difference between, I shoot Eastons, FMJs. I'm switching over to 5.0s right now. I can't tell the difference with my shot with a match grade arrow and a regular arrow. 0.03 straightness or a 0.01 straightness. I don't know the difference. In mine, I bought both. In my mind, I shoot both of them just as good. So why do I need to buy the more expensive arrow? You know,
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at with that. Is just be true to yourself and know what you really are going to use all the time, and spend the money on that and buy the best that you can. And the other stuff that, yeah, I could go buy a nice backcountry teepee, but I'm never going to use it. If I got to stay out there, I have a tarp in my backpack and an emergency sleeping bag that if I got to stay out there for a night, I'm going to stay out there for a night. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I think that's good advice. I mean, you can get into the weeds. I mean, get a decent bow. The other thing is, like, I know a lot of guys like to get a new bow every single year.
That's this guy,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
yeah, that's what you had mentioned. But if that's your thing, but if you're not having to add all the other things that maybe some other guys do, like, that's okay. Have a nice
Yeah.
collection of bows that you can go out and shoot and just have a blast with it. So,
Yeah,
uh,
I actually keep the same accessories on my bow every year. I keep them. I get a new bow every year. It costs me $300 to $400 every year, but I keep my same accessories. I've had the same accessories on my bows for probably 7 or 8 years now.
so you don't have a backup with other accessories then?
No, that's also where some people swear by it.
Yeah,
I luckily have never needed a backup bow.
yeah,
Now, if for some reason something happened and I needed a backup bow, then probably I would start having one. But I would also probably run over to my brother's house, grab his bow, and hurry and tune it, hurry and get it to my draw length, and get it sighted into 50 yards with a fixed pin and call it good. You
yeah,
know,
yeah,
so if I was a super backcountry guy going out of state all the time, I would definitely have a backup bow. Where like my out of state hunts, I because of the time and because I got to be here on weekdays with my kids, I have 4 or 5 days that I get to sneak away for out of state hunts. So
right.
like my out of state hunts are, I do one every year. So this year is Idaho. Next year I will probably do um, Wyoming, and then kind of it just all depends how it is. But I actually found out yesterday I drew a pretty good elk tag in Idaho, and then I also have my general deer tag in Idaho. So that I'm actually going to do. I'll do 5 days general deer, and then I will do 5 days of the controlled elk hunt. So
Yeah,
yeah, and
yeah,
while
good.
also hunting weekends and everything down here when I can.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
Phil, man, I really appreciate your time. You guys, if you would go over, give him a follow. Again, it's Phil_Lundell on Instagram. If you felt that you've learned something or you've enjoyed the stories that have been shared on this episode, please share it. Send it to a friend, buddy, uncle, brother, dad, whatever. The more you guys share it, and if you guys will like and comment on the podcast, the more it helps the algorithm pump this out to the people that want to find it. Again, if you're listening to this on Apple or Spotify, it is available on YouTube. So definitely go over there. And if you follow us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button. And then you can get notifications when we drop new episodes and additional content. But Phil, man, really appreciate you taking the time to meet, and it was fun hearing that story of that buck. It's a beautiful deer, and it's been a lot of fun. So everyone stay safe, and God bless.